Feels a little bit strange to be having Mothering Sunday without Sandra here, doesn't it? Because she's a kind of mother to us all, really. Yeah, certainly the way she wags her finger at me from time to time. But Mothering Sunday it's one of those dangerous days for preachers, and I say that quite deliberately. There are some Sundays when sermons kind of write themselves, really. Christmas is straightforward, baby, manger, angels, job done, really. Now, Easter, empty tomb, joy and lots of praising. I can't say the A word at the moment because we're in Lent. But Mothering Sunday sits there in the calendar like a theological obstacle course, if I'm honest, daring the preacher to put one foot wrong. There's been many a time I've asked other preachers to preach on Mothering Sunday and they say, oh, no, thanks. No, you can do that one. The reason is simple. Every preacher knows that the moment you start speaking about motherhood, then you are stepping into territory that is deeply personal for almost everyone in the room. Some will be mothers themselves or grandmothers. Some will be celebrating joyful family relationships. Others may be remembering mothers that they've lost. Some will carry the quiet ache of never having had children, or the deep ache of having lost a child. Some will have complicated stories about their own mother that Hallmark cards have never yet managed to capture. Which means that if you're a preacher, and particularly if you're a man, well, there's always that slight sense that you're walking into a room full of experts. Now, the slightly awkward truth is that Mothering Sunday was not originally about mothers at all, as most of you will know. Historically, this day in the midst of Lent was the day when many people were encouraged to return to their mother church, the church where they were baptized, or the cathedral of the diocese, if they were somewhere else. In the Middle Ages, apprentices and domestic servants who had been sent away to work were sometimes given the day off to travel home. They'd go back to their parish church and they'd often see their families on the way. And because Lent was a fairly austere season, but as you know, Sundays are moments of celebration amidst Lent, this day became a rare day of reunion and celebration for families. Over time, of course, the family visit gradually became the main event. Flowers appeared and simnel cakes were brought out and mothers were thanked. And eventually, especially in the last century, the whole thing merged rather confusingly with the American Mother's Day, which is a completely separate invention, I have to tell you, driven largely by the greeting card industry and the restaurant trade. Which means that what we celebrate today is really a curious mixture of several things at once. The church as a mother to us all, the family as a place of nurture, and the gratitude that we feel towards those who have cared for us, or at least tried to, as we grew up. And that complexity is actually rather appropriate, because the Bible itself refuses to treat motherhood in sentimental ways. Take the, some might say, mercifully short gospel reading that we just had from Luke chapter 2, 33 to 35. Mary and Joseph have brought the baby Jesus to the temple. Simeon looks at the child and speaks those extraordinary words about salvation and light and glory. And then he turns to Mary and says, quite calmly, a sword will pierce your own soul too. Now, that's not the sort of thing that appears on a Mothering Sunday card, is it? But it is honest. Because love, real love, always carries risk. Anyone who has ever loved a child knows that mixture of fierce joy and quiet fear that comes with it. The joy of watching someone grow and learn and flourish. And the constant awareness that the world can be a difficult and sometimes painful place. Simeon is telling Mary right at the beginning of Jesus' life that love is going to cost her something. One day she will stand at the foot of a cross, which is why the church has always honored Mary, not simply because she gave birth to Jesus, but because she lived a life of courageous, faithful love. And that brings us to the other reading of this morning that we just heard. In his second letter to the Corinthians, Paul describes God as the Father of mercies and the God of consolation, who, quote, consoles us in our affliction so that we may be able to console those who are in any affliction. In other words, the love we receive becomes the love that we give. We are consoled, comforted, and then we learn how to comfort others. We are cared for, and then we learn how to care. That pattern lies at the heart of the Christian life. And it lies too at the heart of family life. The hymn that we sang just now describes Mary giving her body for God's shrine and her heart to piercing pain. That's not a sentimental description of motherhood. It's a description of love that gives itself always. And the remarkable thing is that this kind of love appears everywhere. Of course, we see it in good mothers, but we also see it in fathers, in grandparents, in teachers, in carers, in neighbors, in friends. We see it in people who cook meals for those who are unwell. We see it in those who sit beside hospital beds, who patiently guide children through their homework, or who quietly hold families together when life becomes complicated. The world survives because ordinary people practice that kind of love every day, even in the midst of the horrors of war that we're witnessing at this time. And the church, when it is being faithful to its calling, tries to become a community where that kind of love is nurtured and strengthened. Which means that Mothering Sunday is not really about idealized families or idealized mothers. It's about recognizing the networks of care that hold human life together. It's about gratitude for those who have nurtured us. It's about compassion for those whose stories are painful or unfinished. And it's about remembering that the love we experience in human relationships is always, ultimately, a reflection of something much deeper and much more holy. Because behind all these small acts of care stands the God whom Paul calls the God of all consolation. This is the God who gathers people together with the tenderness of a parent. The God who, as our Eucharistic prayer will put it so beautifully, embraces his people as a mother tenderly gathers her children. And the church itself, the mother church, from which this day originally takes its name, is meant to be a place where that kind of love is made visible. Not perfect, not always tidy, faithful, not finished, as the motto of my fictional parish, St. Faithfuls of Have-Not, would have it, but real. A community where people learn slowly and imperfectly how to console one another, how to forgive one another as a mother forgives a child, and how to care for one another. Which means that Mothering Sunday is not simply about celebrating motherhood. It's about celebrating the courage of love itself. And it's about giving thanks for all those people whose quiet acts of care have shaped our lives more than we will ever fully know. Amen? Amen. Amen.